Good evening and warm greetings to everyone who has joined with us today to this special panel discussion about the first ever food bank, which is soon to be established in Sri Lanka. So, as the audience, I'm sure that you must be wondering what is this concept and what is the importance of a food bank to our country. So, to answer all those questions, we have two special panelists for our discussion today. So, without taking much time, let me introduce the first panelist and the most important guest speaker for today's discussion. So let me welcome Mr. Chris Rebestock, the Director of Field Services at Global Food Banking Network. Sir, hello. We are really delightful to have you here in our discussion, and we are so grateful towards you for joining with us today. And our next panelist is a person who has been behind this process for all the time. So representing Sri Lanka is none other than Mr. Gayantha Jayasuriya, the Chief Operating Officer of Kadamandiya Food Bank, Sri Lanka. So Mr. Gayantha, welcome to the discussion.
Thank you.
And before moving on to the questions, I would like to invite Mr. Gayantha Jayasuriya to introduce the objectives of this discussion.
Yes, the food bank concept is a new concept for Sri Lanka. So main objective is to give some knowledge about the food bank concept and familiarize this concept among Sri Lankans. Through this discussion, we are trying to explain how the food bank concept works and the mechanism of the food bank. So this is the main objective of this discussion. And here we have Chris with us, and Chris and me are trying to give you more knowledge about the food bank. That's the main objective.
Thank you, Mr. Gayantha. So let's move on to the questions and our discussion. So my first question is for Mr. Rebestock. So as we all know, this food bank concept is really new to our country. So many of people in our audience must be wondering what is this, because they don't have any idea about this and they're not familiar with this concept. So can you tell us what is this concept and what is its operation?
Certainly. Basically, a food bank is a nonprofit organization that is designed to fulfill a two-part mission. One part of the focus of the food bank is to reduce food loss and waste in the community or in the country where it's located. And the second part of the mission is to provide nutritional services to the vulnerable population of that community or country. Essentially, what the food bank is a nonprofit food distribution business that bridges between the available surplus food in the community that can't be sold for any number of reasons, but is still fit for consumption, and the people that need it. And the food bank provides the bridge to connect the two.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rebestock. And the next question I have is, so I know that you've been engaged with this global food banking network for many years. So I'm sure that many of Sri Lankans have no idea about this, and they're not like really familiar with this concept again and this global food banking network. So can you introduce us about this global food banking network?
Certainly. The Global Food Banking Network is a international NGO that is focused on nourishing the world's hungry through uniting and advancing food banks. So our whole purpose for existence is to promote the concept of food banking around the world, to help develop food banks in countries that don't have them, and to support food banks in countries where they exist. And we support them by providing training and technical assistance, connecting them to other food banks in other countries to learn about best practices and help to build their capacity. On some limited level, we are able to provide some funding support to help build capacity. And then we work strongly with global corporate partners in order to drive resources to food banks in countries where those partners are doing business.
Yeah, excellent. Like, I am wondering why didn't we know about this all along? Because this is a very important thing to our country, to the entire world. So I think like my next question is that, so up to now, like in Sri Lanka, many people actually like don't know, as I told you earlier, many people don't know about this food banking concept. So what do you think is the reason that they don't know about this concept? What is the difference between the other countries in which this food banking concept is really popular? What is the difference between those countries and Sri Lanka?
Well, I don't know that it's so much a difference between the countries that would have prevented awareness. It's the concept of food banking has been significantly increasing in its spread around the world over the last 10 years or 12 years or so. The Global Food Banking Network was just created in 2006. And part of the reason that the organization was created was because we were beginning to receive inquiries from many other countries asking how to do food banks. And in particular, this last year with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw a drastic increase in the number of countries that were becoming aware of the concept and looking to start food banks. Food banks are really dependent, in order to be successful, they're really dependent on having local leadership. It's not like an organization like the Global Food Banking Network or some other organization can come into a country and just start up food banking. It really has to be rooted in the society and the culture that of the country where it's located, and it takes having a team of people who learn about the concept from one source or another, and then do the research that's necessary to figure out how to adapt that concept to fit the societal circumstances of that particular country. And that's what we have seen with the team that is behind Kadamandiya Food Bank.
So when we are talking about the other countries which have like food banking systems in their countries, like what do they pay like their attention to when they're like starting food banking, like when they're starting that concept, and what are the benefits that they have received because of this concept?
Sure. So to start up the food bank, the team that is planning for it needs to do some investigation to understand what the actual need is, the extent of the need, how many people are hungry in the country and why are they hungry and where are they? And by that I mean, how are they dispersed around the country? Is it primarily a rural issue or primarily an urban issue? You know, they have to understand where the vulnerable population is in the country so that they can figure out how to deal with the logistics of getting the food to them. They have to understand what the how the food industry is structured, and what potential there is for food to be donated. So looking at the supply chain from all the way from the farmers and the fisheries through processing and manufacturing and distribution down to the retail level, grocery stores and restaurants. They have to understand what are the points in that supply chain where food could potentially become available for donation, what kinds of food, and what are the handling requirements? Do they need refrigeration? Do they need freezing capacity? What kind of vehicles will they need to transport the food? All of those kinds of considerations need to be researched and understood in order to design what the function and program structure of the food bank will look like. The benefits are huge. The most important benefit is providing nutritional support to children and adults in order to make it easier for children, for example, to learn. A child who gets up in the morning, didn't have dinner last night, isn't having breakfast today, has no motivation to go to school. And even if they do go to school, their physical capacity for being able to study and learn is impeded if they're suffering from hunger. And so providing food to children makes it easier for those children to learn. And if those children then receive education, then the chances are better that they can be lifted out of poverty as they grow older and lean on that education to become self-sustainable adults. And likewise, hungry adults aren't able to work very well. So taking care of the nutritional needs of hungry adults enables those adults to be productive citizens, productive members of their community, able to focus on being able to work and hopefully be able to be lifted out of poverty by engaging with other programs that are available in the community. So that's the most important benefit. There are additional benefits related to the environment, for example. In 2018, which is the last full year that we have all data collected, all of the food banks in the world together prevented 12.5 billion kilograms of greenhouse gases from being created by keeping 3.75 million metric tons of food from going into the landfill. That's a huge impact on the environment. So there are both the health and nutritional benefits to the community, as well as the environmental benefits to the community.
Yes, like while hearing those things like the importance and the impacts and all the influence that can be done by food banking to a country, I'm very curious about our country, Sri Lanka. So I'm going to turn to Mr. Gayantha Jayasuriya. So my question is for you is about the Kadamandiya food banking network. So can you introduce us this new concept?
Yeah, when we talk about Kadamandi Food Bank, Kadamandi Food Bank is the first food bank in Sri Lanka. As Chris explained earlier, Kadamandi Food Bank also follows the same concepts and processes as another food bank in the world. So as a first step, we are trying to establish a virtual food bank in Sri Lanka. In other countries, mainly food banks are established physically, but because of this situation and the limited resources, we are going with the virtual food bank. As all we know, this concept is a new concept to all Sri Lankans. We are not familiarized with this concept, and we are not heard about this concept earlier. So we are trying our best to introduce this concept to Sri Lanka and try to familiarize this concept within our country. And also, when we talk about our team studied about this concept for more than 1.5 years. So this was not an easy path for us, and there are 9 members in our team currently, and all of us are undergraduates. So even we studied about this, we don't have any experience with this new concept. So there will be some mistakes, but we will try our best to make this a success. That's all about our Kadamandi Food Bank, and that's all about our team. And we are trying our best to make this a success with these limited resources.
Excellent. So I think we should talk about the beginning first. How did you identify the requirements of such a concept in Sri Lanka? There must be a great beginning for this, because this is such a huge process. So to come to the extent that you are establishing a food bank in Sri Lanka, what was the beginning like? What were the requirements? I mean, what did you identify as the requirements in Sri Lanka for such a concept?
Yeah, every citizen in Sri Lanka is not lucky enough to fulfill their hunger as they wish. That's the bitter truth. So when we consider nutrition deficiency and hunger-related health issues, in other countries there are a lot of ground projects that are ongoing, but in our country there are no such projects are going efficiently. So when we consider about this explain, when we consider a wedding or a function, foods are wasted so badly. That's the real situation. We all know that there are a lot of people who sleep with empty stomachs. Even we all know that we have to throw away excess food because there is no proper mechanism to uh, collect those excess food. So this step is the first step to give solutions to end hunger and other hunger related health issues efficiently.
Excellent. So once again, I would like to turn to Mr. Rebestock. So what is your opinion about this implementation in Sri Lanka? And will it have enough capacity to end the hunger, which is currently in Sri Lanka? What is your opinion about that?
Certainly. Well, first, let me say that the Global Food Banking Network has been excited to be working with the team behind Kadamandiya Food Bank for the last couple of months now. We believe that the team has put together a good framework of a plan for implementing the food bank. And we are looking forward to continuing to work with them to help them to refine and execute those plans. Starting as they are with the virtual food bank in order to build awareness and to over time build the resource base that they need in order to implement a physical food bank, as they refer to it, I think is a good approach. It will take time to build awareness within the food industry, within the government, within the various segments of civil society that are necessary in order to build a sustainable base for the food bank operation. So we're looking forward to working with them on being able to refine that planning and move in that direction. I'm very anxious for the pandemic to be over so that I can come visit in Sri Lanka and be able to work face to face with the team there. One thing I will caution, the food banks by themselves cannot end hunger. The issues that create hunger in a country or in a community are very, very complex, obviously. And at the end of the day, what will lift the society, the vulnerable populations of the society out of hunger is the elimination of poverty, or at least the creation of programming that is targeted to the vulnerable population with the right kind of resources and the right amount of resources to be able to provide a consistent, reliable, nutritional basis of product in order to make them no longer hungry. However, having said that, food banks are in a unique position. Food banks in countries all over the world, in developed countries, in developing countries, high-income countries, low-income countries. The concept of food banks put food banks in a unique position to be able to engage the different segments, the different sectors of the society around the table that might not otherwise normally sit around the table together. But because people from government are interested in food banks for one set of reasons, and people in the private sector are interested in the food bank for another set of reasons, and people throughout civil society are interested in the food bank for another set of reasons, they all come together around the work of the food bank, and that gives the food bank a unique position to be able to try and not only do the direct programming that provides food to hungry people, but also then to raise questions to the various sectors of the society about developing longer term deeper solutions that could have significant impact in lifting the vulnerable population out of poverty. And I think that the what we see in the plan for the development and evolution of food banking that's been put together by the team behind Kadamandiya Food Bank demonstrates that they understand that. And that's part of the reason that they're starting at this virtual food bank process, in order to build that kind of awareness that eventually is going to draw all of those people to the table, and that will enable them in the longer term to have a very significant impact on reducing the level of hunger in the country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rebestock, for sharing your insights and experience with us. So moving on to the final part of our discussion, I would like to turn to Mr. Gayantha Jayasuriya again. So as the first food bank in Sri Lanka, so I'm sure that our audience must be wondering what are they going to do next. So please tell our audience about your future plans. What are you going to do first?
Mainly we identify two main facts. So one is food wastage, and the other one is people who needing food. So our main goal is to combine these two and decrease the food wastage and end hunger into some extent in Sri Lanka. In other words, we want to ensure global and national food security by adopting sustainable food consumption. So as the first step, we will establish a virtual food bank. In this virtual food bank concept, we are going to introduce an app called Food for All. Through this app, everybody can share their excess food. You can enter your excess food to this app, and people who need in food can access to this food through this app. So simply, this is a digital platform to combine excess food and people who need in food. So this is the simple mechanism of this virtual food bank, and this is the first step. So as I mentioned earlier, and we will go to the physical food bank in near future.
And so finally, I would like to ask you, so what, as the Chief Operating Officer of Kadamandi Food Bank, what is your final message to the audience who is present here today?
As I mentioned earlier, this is the first food bank in Sri Lanka, so we have an ultimate goal. The goal is to end hunger in Sri Lanka and decrease food wastage. This is the first step to reach that goal, and this journey is just going to begin. So I invite all Sri Lankans to be with us on this long journey and help us to make this a reality. Because mistakes can be happen throughout this journey, so help us to correct our mistakes and give you opinions as well. Then only we can success this journey with your support and blessing. So give your support and also give your blessings, and also give your opinions about this concept, and then we can success this journey. So be strong, be safe in this hard situation, and be with us throughout this journey. That's our message from the team Kadamandi.
Brilliant. So as the final question, I want to ask, and I'm very curious about this, Mr. Rebestock. So what is your final message? As an influential person behind this process, what is your final message to the audience who is with here today with us? What is your final message?
My final message is that I believe that Sri Lanka is at the beginning of a significant impact on its society with the development of the food bank, Kadamandiya Food Bank. I believe that there is an opportunity for many different parts of the public sector, the private sector, civil society to engage with the team at the food bank to share resources and share knowledge. And I believe that the movement from the virtual food bank to the physical food bank will have a great impact, not only on reaching parts of the vulnerable population with the nutritional support that they need, but with driving broader discussion about other resources that could be brought to improve the lives of that vulnerable population. And Global Food Banking Network looks forward to working with Kadamandiya Food Bank to bring all of that to fruition and make it happen.
And once again, thank you very much, Mr. Rebestock. Once again, I would like to give my gratitude to you, because you have been such an influential person behind this entire process, and you have been giving us you have been sharing with us your insights and your experiences and all. So I think it is very important for young people like us to know about these things, because we are still learning about lots of things in this world. So once again, I would like to thank Mr. Chris Rebestock, the Director of Field Services at the Global Food Banking Network, for joining with us in this insightful panel discussion as the guest speaker. And so once again, thank you so much for reserving your time for us. I'm sure that you must be really busy, and thanks for joining with us amidst your busy schedule. And next, I would like to thank Mr. Gayantha Jayasuriya, the Chief Operating Officer of Kadamandiya Food Bank, Sri Lanka, for joining with us and for letting the audience know about this new concept, which is going to be a significant, a legendary one in Sri Lanka in the future. So finally, I would like to thank the organizing committee who is behind this program all the time. And also, as my final comment, I would like to thank everyone who has been listening to this discussion all along. And to wrap up this session, I would like to wish all the success for this new concept in our country. And I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure our audience is also looking forward to this concept. So with the hope to meeting you soon, let's end this session. Thank you very much and have a good night.